What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Altcoin Buzz. Today, we're going to make a video to talk about Ethereum potentially being a better store of value than Bitcoin. Now, it is highly likely that after I make this video, Bitcoin just starts soaring, and by the end of the year, we'll see Bitcoin at around $40,000 and Ethereum, sitting around, I don't know, maybe $5,000. That's possible to suggest that by the end of the year, you could see Bitcoin at 40 and Ethereum around 5,000. Now, that's if the market stays bullish. We eclipse the $1 trillion market cap. That's what we're keeping in mind. Now, that's what we're going to explore in this video. Bitcoin dominance, for example, okay, if we just take a look at Bitcoin dominance and we analyze this, at one point in June, Ethereum made up 32% of the market and Bitcoin 40%, okay? Actually 37 to 31. That was the closest that Bitcoin and Ethereum had ever been, or the closest that Ethereum had ever come to actually eclipsing Bitcoin dominance. Since then, we've seen everything from Ripple to Ethereum challenge the number one spot. Right now, Ethereum is closing in probably closer than it ever has been, just at about $1,500 per Ethereum, okay? Up 36%, Bitcoin down 16%. We've seen Bitcoin as high as 20,000. We've seen Ethereum at an all-time high right now, thereabouts. So, with all that being said, about, two months ago, I made this video, October 17th, 2017. I said, Ethereum best investment in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or Ethereum. This was back when I was just starting out with making videos, and I had identified then that I was trying to understand, I was of the understanding that Bitcoin did not have the best utility case that I was identifying compared to Ethereum. Ethereum being that many of these tokens are built on the Ethereum blockchain. I mean, if you just go here and you look at tokens, you can see the top 100, they're all built, most of them are built on Ethereum. You have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, top 5 are built on Ethereum. Then there's the next one on NXT, Omni, but most of these are built on Ethereum, some on Neo. Now, with that being said, here's where it gets iffy for Ethereum. What if Neo, Omni, well, Omni's not really in the equation. I would say Neo, Lisk, Cardano, what if they start to steal some of Ethereum's thunder that they have? Then how will Ethereum look in comparison to Bitcoin as a store of value? Well, one thing that Ethereum has that Neo and the Qtoms or the other blockchain development platforms is they're on Coinbase. So just the fact that Ethereum is on Coinbase makes it more interesting than these other ones. Should Neo or NXT or Omni get added to Coinbase, then that would add a whole nother dimension to it, right? But if you look down here, you can even see that Waves is getting in the picture. And Lisk really hasn't even started to step up, and neither has Cardano. There's nothing that you can say is being built on those platforms. So those platforms are still a couple weeks out, or a couple months, maybe even a couple years out to really see anything pick up like that, although Ethereum came up hot on the radar. Now, if I ask the question to the Altcoin Buzz Army here on Twitter at AltcoinBuzzIO, your preferred store of value, this was posted on January 11th, 39% of you out of 10,000 votes, almost 11,000 votes came in saying that Ethereum was their preferred store of value. Now, why was that? Well, the reason that most of you guys prefer Ethereum now to Bitcoin is because of the low network fees, it's quicker to send, and they think that it has a better utility than Bitcoin long run because of the utility, the use case in it. There's so many different currencies out there like Litecoin, and you got the privacy coins, Monero, Dash, Verge. You even have Cardano talking about being a currency and a developer platform. So people are more interested in taking their altcoin profits and putting it into Ethereum now, and I can see why. But like I said, don't be surprised if Bitcoin is just kind of taking a little bit of a break, and it's been a buying opportunity. We've seen this even with Ethereum. if you've been trading cryptocurrency for 6 months now, you've seen countless times where Ethereum was rising in the next big thing on the market, and then it flattens out. Right here, you'd be surprised in this time frame from I'd say from about August 5th till November 6th, November 20th, people were not very excited about Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum was just hovering around 300 for almost 3 months, 2 to 3 months. Ripple did the same thing. This is not uncommon to see. People were down on Ethereum. They're like, this is why I sold my Ethereum. They did the same thing to Ripple here. Let's see, Ripple didn't do anything from, I would say, where do I really remember? I mean, look, Ripple didn't do much here. From January 2015 all the way till April 7th, 2017, it didn't do much. But then when it started to rise in May, from May till about December, people were like, "Oh man, I'm getting out of Ripple," you know. So that's where a lot of people got to see that the power in holding. So when holding Ripple for 6 months was probably the most uneventful, most boring cryptocurrency to ever own, and then when it took off, it just shot to the moon. So you got to hold. Even with Bitcoin right now, you've got to say, I've got to hold my Bitcoin because at some point in time, it's going to run again. But what everyone wanted to see was Bitcoin stabilize. They've been asking for Bitcoin to stabilize. And that's why we've been saying, well, some of these other cryptocurrencies are going to have to run while Bitcoin stabilizes and get some of that attention. There was a point in time where some people were actually coming into cryptocurrency because of Ethereum. Whereas before, when Bitcoin would go, Bitcoin was like the one that was drawing everyone in. It's the authentic currency of blockchain. It was the very first one. And when people would hear about the price of Bitcoin, they were like, okay, time to invest in Bitcoin. Then they come into the market and they find out there's all these altcoins. And then they're like, oh, there's too many coins. This is crazy. I can't keep up. And then they start to get into these altcoins. And then they're like, tell me more about altcoins, which is how altcoin buzz basically came about, right? But Bitcoin being stagnant for a while is fantastic for Bitcoin because if it just takes off too quick, it's unsustainable. So this correction that's taken place has, in a way, it's going to prove more than likely to be very beneficial for Bitcoin. You can see over the last month, Bitcoin has just been flat. And we've seen that. I just showed you the historicals on Ripple being flat for 3 to 4 months, Ethereum being flat for 2 to 3 months. So Bitcoin being flat for 1 month, maybe even 2 months is actually a great thing. But long run, wait for Bitcoin to go on its bull run, as we call it, the Bitcoin bull run. Then, stand by because here she goes. And that's probably what's going to end up happening at some point, especially with the Bitcoin futures market that's in place. They don't just create a futures market to just stay stagnant. So this is even a great opportunity to buy Bitcoin. But long run, most of Wall Street's really bullish on Ethereum. However, just as Bitcoin has competition with Litecoin and then a microtransaction like Ripple's never really going to be a store of value, but Litecoin could be a store of value. And then what we're not mentioning in this video that we could mention is Bitcoin Cash, which has been kind of running and then pulling back. So Bitcoin Cash, if you're new here, Bitcoin Cash is a hard fork of Bitcoin, but they say Bitcoin Cash is closer to what the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper was originally intended to be, without the fees and the faster, the quicker mining process than what Bitcoin now has. To mine one Bitcoin is expensive, and they say that as Bitcoin continues to use up computation, that it will become environmentally an issue with the environment, right? Creating tons of, it's going to take a lot of basically power to generate Bitcoins, which could actually end up giving it that intrinsic value that's needed, because gold is so precious because it's hard to find. Like you could dig a hole in the earth and not find any gold. So that's kind of where we're at with Bitcoin mining. Another issue that came up with Bitcoin mining is that in China, they were able to almost centralize the entire mining market because they were able to basically mine the heck out of these Bitcoins. So China was becoming the leader in Bitcoin mining, and that was an issue. But bear in mind, there's also 3 million of these missing. So there's just a lot of interesting stuff going on with Bitcoin, but the comments come up, or the question has come up: is Ethereum better than Bitcoin as a store of value? And right now, sure, Ethereum is, but long run, you can't count Bitcoin out. And I'm not just saying that as a matter of fanfare. Now, another video that I made that is relevant to this is could Ethereum, or what it will take for Ethereum to reach $10,000, right? Oh, so you can see it got a lot of views. I made this video back in November 29th. If we just flash back to where Ethereum was on November 29th. Okay, so we got to go to the 3-month. November 29th, you have Ethereum sitting at what, $513. So it's almost gone up 3 times. So it's gone from 413 to 1,428, and that basically brought up the question of what it will take for Ethereum to get to $10,000, and the market cap is what we took a look at in this video. And if you want to know how that look at this, a $43 billion market cap. Now Ethereum sitting at $138 billion market cap. So it would basically need $1 trillion market cap, just over $1 trillion market cap, in order to reach $10,000 per Ethereum. And we haven't even seen $1 trillion market cap for all of cryptocurrency, but that's what it would take for a $10,000 Ethereum. So it's a projection of what it would take. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen, but you know, Ethereum might be strong right now, and it might be a great store of value right now, but bear in mind, there is a lot of competition that's come into the space with Lisk, with Cardano, with Qtum, with Waves, with Neo. There's a lot of competition for what Ethereum's doing, and Ethereum right now has the most ERC20 tokens, or ERC20 tokens are the most coins on the market. And remember, this whole thing really has been pioneered by Vitalik. Vitalik brought this a lot of value to the market just in his vision for Ethereum. So I would say Bitcoin is probably more than likely going to win out, but I could see why people in the short term would suggest that Ethereum is the better store of value in the short term. But just keep in mind, they don't build Bitcoin futures markets for the thing not to do anything. So the Bitcoin futures market being in place I don't know how the futures market would play out, but maybe they said, well, Bitcoin will remain stagnant. Maybe they put a future on stagnation, or you could put a put and say, well, Bitcoin's going to rise, and then if it goes up, you know, whatever you put into it, and then the futures market, it could be funny because if they just keep it stagnant for a little while, then no one wins except for the people who said it was going to stay stagnant. So there's just a lot of different factors, and I would keep an eye on how that Bitcoin futures market is impacting the price of Bitcoin right now before we write it off. So that's definitely something to consider. Is what about if people take out futures contracts on it going up or down? That's one thing. But what if it remains stagnant? As we've seen with Bitcoin, it's really remained stagnant. It hasn't done too much price action recently. I mean, we've seen it as high as 19,000 in a month, okay? But then we've seen it as low as 12,000. But even if we just look at the last 7 days, we've seen it as high as 17,000 and as low as 14,000, which is creating a buying opportunity for Bitcoin, being able to buy Bitcoin on a dip. So we've got a lot of different situations occurring here, and I'd be interested to see how the futures market is affecting it. If you just look at the last 3 months, 3 months ago, Bitcoin was sitting at 5,600, and it's had as high as 4 times return, almost 3 to 4 times returns, being up above around 20,000. Even though this chart doesn't say it, I believe we did hit 20,000. 19,991, but I believe we did eclipse 20,000. Now, Bitcoin Cash being stagnant is another one to keep an eye on. But the thing that Bitcoin and Ethereum have that Bitcoin Cash does not have, and Litecoin, is marketplaces where you can exchange your Bitcoin for altcoins. Now, if Litecoin were to establish more markets where you can exchange Litecoin for altcoins, if that were to happen, then Litecoin would major league come up on the radar as a store of value, and as it would rise. And the reason for the rise would be basically the cheaper transaction cost. Okay, because it costs a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money, but if you bought $100 of Bitcoin and you try to transfer it to an exchange, between the Coinbase fees and the Bitcoin network fees, the Bitcoin Core network fees, you'd almost be losing almost a quarter of your money right off the bat. And for someone who's new to the market, why would they buy Bitcoin if they could just get Litecoin and have a smaller transaction fee? You know, and then it moves faster. Litecoin moves a lot faster than Bitcoin. Ethereum has basically what Litecoin has in that regard. So it's just interesting to see that, but it was never intended to be a store of value. Even here on Reddit, Ethereum could be a better store of value compared to Bitcoin. But even here they were saying Ethereum was never meant to be a store of value, so to suggest that is crazy, and that was a year ago. But now it's being used as a store of value. And where do we even see this on our Twitter? Litecoin was 17%. USDT was the small one. People don't even want to use USDT, which is equivalent to the US dollar. So there's a lot of factors to consider here. And if you'd like to participate in these kind of discussions, join us on Twitter at altcoinbuzz.io. Just a growing community here. You can see we had over almost 11,000 votes. So this is not just some BS poll with a couple hundred people voting. This is 11,000 people interested in cryptocurrency saying that they think Ethereum is number one. And we put out a bunch of different stuff. You can see we have top altcoin on your list to buy right now. You can see we have top ICO right now. So tips for newbies. This channel is one of my favorite places to hang out now is Twitter. Whereas before I used to think Twitter was boring. Now I think it's great. You know, we keep growing. So Instagram has potential to be that exact same thing because there is a lot of people hanging out on Instagram. So we'll see. If you're new here to this channel, you can subscribe. And if you've been subscribed, you can click that notification bar to get notified when we drop videos like this, having these discussions. In the comments below, definitely tell us your case about why Ethereum or Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin is the ultimate store of value. And we'll see you guys next time.